work has been inspired by studies with different masters. We were just talking about, before the call, we were talking about your studies under the inspiration of Glenn Gould here in Canada, as well as the use of both sides of the brain.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit about how you're able to transfer these experiences you've had with other masters or other teachers into your ability to create without any point of reference.
I've had the great fortune to have learned from incredible human beings, not just visual artists, but I can certainly cite off the top of my head a painter named William Halsey from South Carolina, a British painter named Michael Tyzak, an American painter named Gregory Amanoff, and an American sculptor named John Raimondi. The latter two, which are still alive, and what they all have in common is none of them ever said the word no to me. The answer to any question was yes. So I think the best kind of teacher is the kind that gives you permission to be yourself, but also to make mistakes, to screw up, to try stuff. No big deal. You try again. You keep trying. So I think every artist must come to the point in their lives, in their working lives, where they must simply claim yes. And then you just let it kill you. That's just essentially the recipe. I did the yes a long time ago, and now I'm in the slow killing part. Meaning that I'm devoting my day and night to this thing, this thief that comes into my room and steals my time. I notice it as I get older, you know, that it's such a strange thing that we do, you know, that we make things and that we try to manufacture that state of lucidity and keep it around for as long as possible. It really doesn't have anything to do with the paintings. And that's what brings me back to Gould, who is my idol, my role model. He's my Mount Rushmore all four times. I got to see, I never met him. He died when I was in high school. And I don't think I would have wanted to. I think everything I need is in the work. And it's not just in the music. It's not even about the music. And I think he would even maybe say something to that point, that the music is the delivery system, even though he was one of the most consummate, you know, concert pianists and recording artists of the 20th century. But there was something else that he was after. And I think later on in his life, it comes with the sound documentaries and in the writings, which are wonderful if y'all have not experienced those. But the notion of the counterpoint, the multiple voices sort of woven together to create this landscape that creates both an internal and an external orientation, and that he faces north, and the north is that great expanse, that great abstraction of the Canadian North, which I think is such a beautiful image. And that sort of permeates all of his work. And to this day, I still study his example. I've been to the National Libraries we spoke about in Ottawa, and they would just give me free reign of the music collection. And I would go through his yellow ledgers. I would read everything, love letters, prescriptions, everything I could get my hands on, to just see what an artist's life looked like. And I think that's what I was after. And he is the consummate creator. He is unpretentious. I think he's silly in the ways that really, really turn me on. But when it comes to the work, he was deadly serious. I learned so much from that group of artists that I've mentioned, as well as many, many others. And they've all said the word yes to me. I've never heard the word no.
That's beautiful. I like that you're emphasizing the creative impulse as being this huge driver, and then the yes just kind of comes from that, where you kind of give yourself over to that current.
Yes. Yep.
That's
permission.
beautiful.
That's all you want is permission. Yeah. And if you can get it early from a mentor or for someone, you know, it makes all the difference, you know, because then you can say, you know, it's okay, and I can do this, you know, and then you go on. It's not all roses, not all successes, but that's not the point. It's about trying to manufacture that clear seeing place that I named the last book for, trying to manufacture that, and then you just keep it, and it's that well that you dip back into over and over and over again, to see as clearly as possible. And if we can do that, and on top of it communicate it to another human being, man, there's nothing better, I think. And that's worthy of a life, I think.
Yeah, that is life. That's the kern of life. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, to share and to say that I try to be kind. You know, that's my big thing, is to be a gentleman and a gentleman at the same time. And I hope that will come through in both the videos and in our conversation today, and in meetings in person, and hopefully in the work, that there's a generosity of spirit, and a testament or an affirmation to the very limitless possibilities that we have while we're on this earth for such a short time. You know, just to say that I was here and I wasn't alone, and then I'm going to leave this thing after I'm long gone that will remind the next person that, hey, you're not alone. And yes, the answer is yes. You know,
yes is to say, is to reaffirm your identity, is to reaffirm your existence. And every time that your existence is reaffirmed with your passion, you immediately become a source of inspiration to others. You start forming a legacy every time you say yes to who you are. You say yes to the courage of being the unknown of you.
Yeah.
To reshape yourself every time, every day, and start fresh with no point of reference. Then that's when you can build a certain legacy, because you are representing the creator in a very direct way, in a very living way. So you cannot be kind if you are not dying any moment, and you cannot be kind if you are not willing to say yes again to revive yourself in a mission. You have no idea what is the purpose, but you know that you're connecting something beyond your understanding. So that's what makes you a teacher. That's what makes you a living legacy, and whatever art you want to choose to be. But is that courage of saying, yeah, I can die, and I die every day, and I can born every day, and I won't have any point of reference. And that's the only way to meet your life every day. It could be the work, or it could be a relationship or something. But if you don't see that everything is doing the same thing around you, you are just an automatic flat being that is following something that you have been told to follow. But
a linear path.
A linear path. But if when we close the door, we're saying, let me die in peace.
Okay.
I will go out reborn again.
Yes.
Wait for So with that courage, we can explore that unknown, and in that death, we can create the teacher, we can create the creator, we can create the legacy.
Yeah, and create the human being that you want to be. You know, it's a collaboration, because it does require, you know, the connection with other human beings. The secret to my success, which I tell audiences around the country, was marrying the right person, was marrying my wife, Katie. That was the most important decision of my life. And everything else sort of spirals out from there. So I do credit that notion of the collaborative effort, be it my spouse, or be it my teachers, my mentors, both living and not with us, or the ones I've never met, like Glenn Gould, still speak to me with such fervor and such vigor that I lay awake at night, and I can you know, shiver. I can hear them. You know, it's important.
And at the same time, if we have not married our own heart, we cannot really establish that connection to any other human being. So first is that marriage with our own passion, with our own impulse, with our own conviction, with our own courage, with our own kind of commitment inside. Then you're so solid that say, okay, who wants to be around? And that could be one person, or it could be, like in my case, a whole entire community that is saying, okay, let's know each other, let's have a feedback and with each other, they grow together. And yes, it's still that intimate person that only appears when you are alone and in your studio, right? Is that person that is beyond your time, is that person that is saying, create for me, be the vessel for me. And that is the marriage that is unspoken in the creation.
And you touched on something I think important there, in that the notion of self-love, of loving oneself as the core, as the center of this. And there's a great line from John Lennon who said, "No one can harm you, feel your own pain." So that notion of compassion for oneself, and to accept the role of sadness in our lives, not misery, not depression, but sadness, that resonant hum that's within all of us. And I think an artist is simply someone who reveres suffering and can notice it. And if you can recognize it in yourself, then you can recognize it in other people. And the idea of putting something beautiful into the world is a way to resist that sadness, and to say yes to yourself, and to say yes to the world, and to keep trying to put something of merit out into the world, and to say that, you know, I was here, and then you were here, and we were not alone. It just comes back full circle to that original premise.
Yeah, and the sadness that, like in my case, is not a personal sadness, but is the sadness that is impersonal, that is something that is simply because we're echoing the need to say, speak my sadness, help me. Yes. And because I never identified with, say, okay, this is my sadness, I feel sadness. It's not that I feel sadness, it's that there is a sadness that need that turning into beauty, that need that acknowledgement, but it doesn't need to be from me, it doesn't come from me per se, because I feel sad. I'm not a sad person. I don't think I ever feel sad, but is a sadness that is part of the download. Is part of saying there are humans that are sad and they need to see something beautiful in order to be recognized. So it's a sadness that is not a point of creation, but it's a sadness that is a point of reconciliation, where you're reconciling your own humanity and you are transcending your own humanity.
Yes, that's well put, actually. That it is this current that's always out there, this hum, as a friend of mine calls it. And it's not a personal thing, that it's kind of the main baseline of human existence. And I think that, and to be able to recognize that and tap into it and move along all the dark curves and dimensions of that. And then from that to produce something that is beautiful. But beauty always has a tinge of tragedy in it, always a tinge of sadness. Otherwise, it's just pretty. I think it has to be not just attractive, but beauty always has, to me at least, an element of sadness in it.
Or tension, because in that common consciousness of humanity, one of that track is sadness.
Yes.
But it's also, that's the one that we can tap into it, but there are all a variety of currents and different tracks of common consciousness that we can create from. Yes. And that I found that it's just a state of creation. Yes. It's just a passage. When we are actually creating from a relationship of emptiness, we are creating an art that is just in the tension, that instead of duality is a tension of paradox. And then you become the neutral point where you are able to see, not to create beauty, but to be beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And transmit and emanate that beauty, but it's just of what is the track that we are connecting, and I found that sadness is just one, but in my experience as a mystic, to tap into beyond the common consciousness of humanity. It's okay if I stop being a human and I don't want to create from that place.
Right.
What other place is there to create from?
Right.
And that becomes that, as I say, face to face to the fact that I am the creator and I am representing this emanation of beauty or paradoxic, or a trinity, a way of thinking in trinity, where you have the opposite contradictional forces like two colors, complementary colors, but in the center you are the one holding the space of balance, depending of how you arrange the things and how you communicate. But is common consciousness is a tricky passage, a way of trinity, because after all, then we become the as I say, we become the art, we become the creativity, and we become the creator.
Right.
And in that trinity, there is the perfect balance.
And
imagination that goes through that, it becomes useful, it becomes inspiring, it becomes beautiful, it becomes talkative, it becomes real expressive. So is to open the courage to become that triangle, where you are in every single creation, you are still the craftsman, you're still creating the art, you're still creating creativity, and you're still creating the creator. But that interaction, you are balanced, you become a different being.
And it defies common sense. Sometimes common sense has its place, but in this kind of creative impulse, I think that you're talking about, it's an impulse that's beyond common sense.
Yes.
It's like
maybe we're not meant to understand everything, that's okay,
that's the poetry of it.
In one of my books, I call it the ability to die. It's the second tool of the shaman. It's the ability to surrender outcome, surrender the notion of having to do something to get a result. And it's a very scary moment. It's an uncomfortable moment. But it's just a moment. And the more I go, the shorter the moment gets. But I truly go into the void. I don't know anything, and into the darkness, and it's a 0 point. It's literally dark, and like you're talking about the safety. It has to be in a sacred space, and from there I enter the absolute now. But I'm not. That part of me I've left behind, that part of me that I call the ability to die, it's the little me that I've left behind. And I enter the immediate. The immediate is not the realm of time. Time is future and past, but the moment has no time. And in that moment, you have transcended. You have the sight. That sight of whether it's whatever your expression is. If it's the art, for me, it's ceremony, or it's seeing into seeing where someone is. Giving them how they look energetically, in order to help them, what position they're in, and so on. But it's that process of dying. It's like I said, it's always uncomfortable because you can't have an outcome in mind. If you have an outcome,
Right.
then you're going to project into it, And
It's a great analogy for painting, Matthew, because I think Kazimir Malevich said that all art is destructive. The creative act is about destroying and then reconfiguring and then presenting something back. You can't make something without destroying something else. I think that maybe is somewhat analogous to what you were saying before. But I like what you said about the dying, that part.
Yeah, because you don't know. From that point, you're vulnerable. You're at 0 point. You
Right.
only have darkness, and you wait, and that next moment it comes.
Yeah.
And is it real? Is it true? But experience has told me it is true. The frequency of it, which is true. That's how I know, and it's always confirmed,
Mm-hmm.
But it's to go through that death, the shaman's death. They've called it through the ages, that shaman's death, where your limited self, you die. That part of you that has to die. And so, and also the sacredness, the sacred space, nothing to do with religion or
right.
It's that feeling of containment,
yes,
of safety.
Yes.
That's what makes the quality of ceremony. Because you're inviting the spirit in. You're inviting something from the unseen into this moment. It has to be sacred. It has to be protected.
Yeah.
If it's not protected, then it's like a sacrilege, It's like to sully that is like, it does so much damage.
And I love the notion of the unseen also. That the artist attempts to make the invisible visible, and that you try to imbue sticky, obdurate oil paint with vitality and with some sort of dimension and something else other than just skins of paint on a canvas. That you try to create this container for people to project themselves into, and then hopefully, again, in that moment, have some sort of symbiosis or communication with the spirit of the person who put it down in the first place. That's a very interesting thought, what you said.
Yeah. So your paintings are like a container in a sense.
Container. Yeah.
It's a container of that sacred moment.
Yeah. Yep. And I try to imbue it with light and depth and space and sort of hallowed, echoes, with echoes, hums, murmurs, the things unseen, the tree branch that's already been snapped, which refers to some past weather event, which we weren't privy to in the first place. Things that happen outside of the picture, other unseen things, forces, things like that, all play a role in what the viewer sees. And you have to reference that without representing that. And it's a challenge. And it's truly, I think, a worthy profession, a worthy endeavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for example, in the case of Matthew, when you were saying that in the moment that you die, you see the other person, and that is the canvas and the painting in the invisible, as each person is a living art. Yep. And you as a shaman, Matthew, can see what kind of painting is up there, how is form, what is it that is that art piece in its building, depending on the belief system that they have and what they are choosing to decorate their reality. But without that moment of death, you're not able to see the other.
I really enjoyed this conversation this evening with all of you, and just getting the different perspectives on coming from the arts, coming from shamanism and mysticism, And I think we've touched on a lot of places that'll be really interesting and fruitful for a lot of our viewers. So I want to thank you so much, Brian, for joining us this evening.
My pleasure.
If people are interested in getting a hold of him, I know he's got an amazing YouTube series. I definitely recommend checking it out. That's Brian Rutenberg Studio Visits. And you also have Brian, an upcoming show in New York City at the Forum Gallery from February 27th, 2020 until April 11th to coincide with the release of your new book, A Little Long Time. So congratulations on both of those, and we're looking forward to seeing more of your work. Thank you so much for being with us. As well as Berdhanya and Matthew are both available through berdhanya.com. They teach courses around the world as well as online, and have a beautiful course called Practical Awakening, as well as a new series called Evolution that's coming out soon that's worth checking out. I thank all of our listeners who are here on the call with us, as well as those tuning in through YouTube and Vimeo. And thank you all. And my name is Bria, and we look forward to another series of meetings with remarkable people in the new year.